Little background story. I'm Tessa. I'm 14. I live in Minnesota, and I go to this one campground up north in the kind of middle of nowhere. I have gone to that campground for 11 years and still go there to this day. It's been open for only a year or two before I started going there. My mother is really popular there, and we know everyone. They always are having a party or staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning, drunk as fuck. This particular night haunts me forever. Me and my friend Chloe were best friends. She was the shy brunette, and I was the wild blonde. She always had this thing where she never liked sleepovers. This one night, me and her planned on having a sleepover in a tent outside of her actual camper. Our parents did not stay out late that one night for some reason. We had a fire and did regular camping things. It was about 1 when we decided to go in the shower house with showers and bathrooms. It was one of the best campgrounds in North America. It's a fact, not my opinion, actually. So we were in the shower house, planning to just hang out because the shower house in the lodge is the only place that has Wi-Fi. My data does not work because it's in the middle of nowhere. So we plan on staying there till 3 a.m. We're at about 2 a.m. and we need chargers. We go to her camper and grab our chargers, and on our way back, we're outside the door for some air before we go inside. Chloe is on her phone, and around the corner behind her is an old guy, or maybe a woman. Looks to be 100 years old, and is walking a rat. Looks like one at least. I scream and tell her what I see, and the guy has a crazy smile on him. We run as fast as we can, as fast as our long legs will let us. About 2 steps till we get inside. I start crying because I'm so scared, and she is freaking out because she does not know what was just behind her back. The plug in our chargers and hesitate to call either of our parents. We feel like they would get really mad at us and not even believe us, and we're out till 3 a.m. We were not even supposed to be up past 1 on that night, so now we're freaking the hell out and ready to just bust out the door. We've been in there for an hour. At this point, past the time we saw the creepy old man, we were hesitant to open the door, but ended up opening the door. I'm thinking that we're going to die, and we ran out the door as I turned around, and I see the creepy old man with something that looks like a knife in his hand, right outside the corner of where we almost got stabbed. To this day, we almost always remember this night. Our parents ended up believing us and were mad at us for not calling them. First off, let me just say that English is not my mother tongue, so I apologize if my story seems a little bit grammatically funky. I apologize. I'll do my best to make the most sense out of the story. I was out camping, and I hate camping, but as a Boy Scout leader, I had to. I've brought my laptop to entertain me when I got there, and set up the main tent when my friend named Anthony was a Boy Scout leader. He came up to me and we were joking about stuff when this weird gray blur ran across the field that made up the campsite. We both waited until every scout was there and said the rules. Then we began cooking the food. Now this was survival camp, and the scouts collected the firewood, and I made the fire, and we started cooking rabbit when one of the campers screamed. 2 bright eyes were staring out of a tree. Then I did a thing that I regret. I yelled, "Good joke, but now get the hell out of here." My friend said calm down and aimed his flashlight at the tree, and we saw this gray blur again. After 1 more hour, it was time to go to sleep, so we showed the scouts to their tents and moved to our own tent. That's when I opened up my laptop to get some work done, when I heard a scream, where I ran outside and looked around and saw a group of scouts running towards me. I looked around and saw the bright eyes staring at their tent. I took the scout into the main tent and asked him what they saw, and one of them said, "We're not sure." I asked for any details, and they gave me one thing. They said all they saw was gray. I woke up Anthony, and we both walked out, and we had grabbed kitchen knives. Then we saw a large gray shape. "What the fuck?" Anthony yelled, and it turned around. It was a larger shape than what we had thought, with an inhuman screech running off into the woods. The next day, we told the campers to pack up their stuff and move out when we were moving. That's when I saw it again, another gray blur on the edge of the woods. I also got weird questions like, what is that thing, and why is it around here? Does anyone know what the hell this gray thing was that we saw? It started as a normal camping trip for me. I was 13 at the time, and I was the loner of my life, and enjoyed being alone and going on little trips into the woods and doing some reading and other things. I did like to go out in the middle of the night and hide amongst the trees, thinking I was a ninja or something like that. But I went out to play in the trees and did have to come back just because it was dark, and when everyone else was asleep, I snuck out to see the creek in the moonlight, and so I was walking around. I suppose I was supposed to be asleep, but it wasn't very bright, and realizing I had no idea where I was, I stopped and heard crunching behind me. I looked and saw a mountain lion inching a good 30 feet to my left side. I stumbled and I fell over. I noticed it heard me fall and stared at me. Then I started screaming and jumped up and ran away, not knowing if it was following me. I ran to a small graveyard and fell over again over a tomb, just to feel an ice-cold hand grab me by the wrist. This was true horror. And then I was yanked to my feet and was pulled, and the mountain lion jumped out of the trees and headed for me. Still being pulled, I was yanked all the way back to the camp and fell about 15 feet from the fire when I heard my rescuer yell, "You stupid ass motherfucker." And I look up. "I love you too, Beth," realizing it was my older sister. She had been trailing me like she does when I left and had noticed someone in the graveyard, and not the animals, but a large figure in a hood, walking my way fast, and jumped in. So, if it were not for my sister, I would not be alive, even if she doesn't know how much she saved me. Then she looked into my eyes and said not a word about this to her mom. I shook my head, knowing we would never tell anyone of our trip to the woods. What a horrible camping trip this had been. It all started when summer had come, and me and my 3 friends, Lola, Katie, and Jennifer, were all planning to go camping. We were all excited, but scared at the same time, just because we were going camping alone. Lola asked her dad if he could drop us off. He agreed to take us. When the next day came, we started heading up. Lola's dad set up the camper that we were using. "There are some spare blankets inside in case you get cold," he said before leaving. Lola's dad finally got in his truck and turned around. He stopped and rolled down his window and said, "No boys," to all of us, smiled at us to let us know he was joking, and drove off. There were 3 rooms in the trailer, 1 master bedroom, and 2 rooms with bunks. Each room had a TV in it, so nobody cared what room they got. Everybody knew that Jennifer didn't like small rooms, so we let her have the big one. I was in a room with Lola, and Katie was in a room by herself. I started unpacking when we heard a loud boom outside. Lola, did you hear that? Hear what? The boom? Yeah. We both looked at each other, startled, and then continued unpacking. But something seemed off. It was the fact that Lola was so chill about it. I was done unpacking, so I was walking outside and started a fire. Jennifer walked out and asked if I saw it. I asked, "Saw what?" And then she started freaking me out. She was staring behind me, panicking, her eyes darting back and forth. And then she calmed. I felt as if something was watching me, so I turned around. I saw an orb in the corner of my eye, reddish black. But by the time I turned to look, it was gone. I was so freaked out. I told Katie she could cook instead. We had her family's secret recipe of shepherd's pie and a bunch of vanilla cupcakes. There were about a dozen cupcakes left in the open box, so we just left it on the table and went to bed. I could hear the TV coming from Katie's room, so I punched the wall and told her to be quiet. Right after that, everything went quiet, except for a small scream in the distance. It didn't sound human. It gave me chills that ran down my spine. I dozed off, but woke up in the middle of the night, hearing sounds from the kitchen. I woke up Lola, and then we walked out into the small hallway that led into the kitchen. I saw Jennifer sitting on the table, staring straight ahead. Something touched me. I jumped and realized it was just Katie seeing what was making the weird noises. Jennifer was really creeping me out. She never stared into space this often. But then I noticed something in the corner of my eye. It was a shadowy figure. It was staring at Jennifer and slowly turned to face me and Katie. I froze. Katie froze. Jennifer then looked at us as if being mind-controlled. Then the figure ran out of the window, and Jennifer then dropped her head onto the table. We tried to wake her up, but ended up falling asleep. This experience still scares me to this day, and it is the only thing I have experienced that's creepy. Me and the others are still very close, and we live together now. But we all remember that night, and whatever it was we saw, it turns out Jennifer remembers seeing it in the daytime, but was out cold when the rest of us saw it. It freaks us out even more knowing that our friend wasn't even awake and staring into space, eyes wide open.